So there are 5 different types of imposter syndrome. The first type of imposter syndrome is the perfectionist. So the perfectionist feels like everything should be done perfectly. They do not care about the outcome necessarily, but focus on the process and how it's done. The second type is the superhuman. This is the person that takes on tons of different tasks and believes that they have to be doing way more than others to be considered successful. The third type is the natural genius. So the natural genius feels like everything should come to them easily and quickly, and they should just get everything perfectly the very first time. And then next you have the soloist. The soloist is the individual that does not seek help and feels like they should do everything on their own, and asking for help is actually a sign of weakness. And lastly, you have the expert. The expert is the individual that feels like they should know everything about everything, and they are not capable of feeling that if they don't know something that it's okay.
Truth. No chaser.
Welcome to Truth No Chaser. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jay.
And I'm Frank.
And this is a shot of truth stirred with bold opinions, reversing the miseducation of the Black community as it relates to health, politics, and cultural identity.
And tonight we have a special guest. Not only is she a fan of the show and a friend of the show, but she is my good friend, Miss Alicia Williamson. Welcome to the show.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Alicia.
So happy to be here.
Yes, glad to finally get you on, girl. It's been life and. But anywho, we are going to discuss a very important topic, one that me and you briefly touched on about 2 years ago, and you were on my AC Speaks. Imposter syndrome. Yes, today we will dive into imposter syndrome. If you haven't heard about it, this is the show you want to tune in right now. We will define imposter syndrome. We will talk about the differences between imposter syndrome and other emotions, the types of imposter syndrome, how it may appear in different settings, methods to improve, and finally, how to identify when professional intervention may be necessary. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this great conversation with Miss Alicia, we will have an icebreaker by Frankie. Kick it off.
Yes, and just to, smooth things, make your entry a little bit, enjoyable over here. With us at Truth No Chaser, I was stalking your social, right? Stalking your social, see what you about, what you like. I see you like to travel.
I do.
You do. So I have a question for you. 7-day cruise to, well, it wouldn't be 7 days, it'd be longer than that, but cruise to Greece, Santorini, Greece, or all-inclusive Maldives.
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
A virgin cruise at that. You know how virgin cruise is. You know how virgin does.
Yeah.
So it depends on what the vibes are, right?
Mhm.
So if I don't want to think about what I'm going to eat or how I'm going to be entertained, I would take the cruise. However, if I want to explore the city, get to know the locals, get a piece of the culture, then I'm going to go on the all-inclusive so I can get a little bit more of the city. So it depends. If I'm stressed out for work, let's do the cruise. Virgin Voyage.
Hello, somebody.
Okay.
But if I feel like I am incapable of actually figuring out what I'm going to eat and where I'm going to go and how I'm going to entertain myself.
In a resort? Gotcha. Okay. Great answer. Now, second and final question, excuse me. I saw you rooting for Auburn War Eagle.
Yes.
You are War Eagle fan. Okay. Shit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All day, every day.
Now this is no trivia because that usually doesn't work out on this show.
Okay. Not if you ask
So
me.
this is it. So this is not trivia, but more so a question for you. If you had a son,
Okay.
the gene pool, I want you to pick a gene pool. Which one would you go with out of these two War Eagle legends?
Okay.
Cam Newton or Bo Jackson?
I'm going to go Bo Jackson.
You better have. You better have. Sometimes I have these questions, but I have the answers already for the people. You understand what I'm saying? And you just got to pick the right one. You understand what I'm saying?
I did good. Okay.
Absolutely.
He's gonna light your ass up.
Absolutely.
He's really judging you.
Right. If you would have said anything, but
How it's gonna go?
if you would have said anything, but possibly the best athlete that we've ever seen. Okay, but go ahead.
But
Anyway.
all love the Cam.
Yeah, I love the Cam. ATL all day. Yes, yeah.
But Bo all day, every day.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank
Good
you.
answer. Good
Good
answer.
answer.
See,
Good
she's
answer.
smart, right?
Very.
This is why
Very smart.
we
Yes.
talked about doing this.
Yes.
I thought, ding, ding, ding. Let me
Yeah.
call my good friend Alicia.
Yeah.
Hopefully Cam doesn't come across the show.
Listen.
I gotta
Cam,
see
Cam, we love you.
I gotta see him at the gas
We
station.
love you.
Hopefully he does come close.
Right, hello.
Viral.
That would be
That part right there. But yes, let's get into it. Alicia does have a master's in education specialist in school psychology. So she is not only beautiful, y'all, but she's smart. Imposter syndrome, girl. Let's define it for the folks.
All right. So first I want to say I'm just so happy to be here because I know we had some trials and tribulations, and I'm just thankful to be here and really excited to talk about imposter syndrome because it impacts so many of us, particularly people of color. So a lot of people are excited to talk about imposter syndrome because it's like a new hot button issue or topic to think about, but it's actually not new. So imposter phenomenon was originally investigated by Dr. Suzanne Imes and Dr. Pauline Clance. And so this was during the 1970s. And so particularly they noticed that it was relevant in women and other marginalized groups. So it's essentially doubting your own competence, whether that's your skills or your cognitive skills. And if you do experience some sort of success, you attribute it to something else. So you really don't believe that you're able to. And then if it actually happens and you do well, it's not because of you, it's because of these external forces. The other thing about imposter syndrome, it oftentimes impacts like high functioning, high achieving individuals. And so it's really relevant because if you think about how I mentioned earlier, the implications for marginalized people, so people of color, women, people who identify as gay, lesbian, and things like that nature, we have to think about how that impacts all of us. So I think about like my childhood, and I don't know if any of you guys can relate, but I remember growing up and hearing that I had to be smarter, I had to be better, I had to be all these different things 2 times more, 10 times more than my white counterparts. And so if you think about how that messaging impacts you and how that could show up today, you have imposter syndrome.
That is true.
She said people of but higher achieved. You know, saying so virtually the ones that you wouldn't think
Yes.
would suffer from. Well, suffer is the wrong word to use, correct?
Well, no, I think suffer is correct. The right way
Okay.
is because essentially it's constantly doubting yourself. So,
Okay, right.
and like I said, even if you do experience success, which, like I said, is high achievers, so you do experience the good grades, you do well professionally, you still feel like it's not because of you. You know, you feel like it's something else that's attributed to it. So, yeah, I would say you suffer from it.
See, that's good to know for people that automatically think people higher up don't have anything.
They have it great.
Don't have anything to complain about. Like what do you have to complain about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're a millionaire. And
Successful, have the
and
nice
stuff
house,
like that.
the car.
So what is it that? But you're saying that they are most likely the ones to suffer from it the most. That is very interesting. I mean, just speaking, but we've had transparent conversations about this prior. We've even some shorts about it. Ashley has said she's felt like she suffered from imposter syndrome herself, and we all have, in some right, just not just the feeling of not belonging. And I've mentioned to them a lot. I just having my close quarters. And then, you know, little things like finishing school and stuff like that. You know, I get real like tense, you know, because I feel like I articulate myself well, and you know, I'm able to be in different circles, and I don't feel uncomfortable, you know. But it is once everybody start backing out the car keys, you like, and everybody start backing out the Raris, you know what I'm saying, on the resume and stuff like that, and the Lambos, and you know what I'm saying, I got my Kia. I'm like, okay,
But
send me
you
back
still
up. Well, I mean,
Right.
in
I know, I
the
get
car,
what
and
you're
nothing wrong with a
saying.
Kia
Yeah.
in terms of the resume.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
No, I
saying?
get it. I
You
get
just
it.
you be sitting there like, oh, you know, my bad. I can't now. I'm in a conversation that I can't really, you know.
And
So.
along, go ahead, Alicia.
Well, I think Ricky brought up a really good point. Like, you brought up that feeling of belongingness, and like that is a key implication of imposter syndrome. And if you think about, like, you know, I mentioned earlier, like marginalized groups, like women, people of color, like a lot of the spaces that we function in weren't designed for us. So that makes sense. You know, people start running down their resume, and then you're talking about people who may have had other opportunities that we weren't privy to, you know, and so we're in these spaces that weren't necessarily designed for us. And I agree, like, yes, I have multiple degrees and all these things, but like I experience it definitely at work. A lot of people don't look like me. A lot of people have different backgrounds other than me. And it was really hard to really like establish myself within that first year, because I felt like I shouldn't be here. Like, my resume doesn't look the same as yours. So why am I in this space? And like, what's going on here? Like, you know?
Yeah.
So speaking on that, because I wonder when they talk about, you know, different emotions and the difference between imposter syndrome and emotional stuff, right? Like anxiety.
Yes.
So is it linked to anxiety and depression? And
Yeah, or even just general, like, can that just differentiate from some just general feelings of insecurity
yeah,
versus truly imposter syndrome, or are they one and the same?
good question.
That's a really good question. So imposter syndrome is a little bit different. Like, there are implications that like imposter syndrome can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, it can cause other maladaptive behaviors. However, it's a little different. Like, a lot of people look at it as, oh, you're just being humble. Like, it's not humility. Imposter syndrome is a sense of inadequacy. So I feel inadequate in my ability. I feel inadequate in my skills. And then when I do succeed, because these people do succeed, we succeed and still feel like it's attributed to something else. So it's a little bit different, but depending on the intensity of where you are and how you're experiencing imposter syndrome, it can lead to other things like depression. A lot of people also kind of find similarities between imposter syndrome and perfectionism. And while there are some similarities, again, it's a little bit different. Perfectionism is rooted in anxiety, whereas imposter syndrome, like I said, is really more about that sense of inadequacy.
What's an example of a maladaptive behavior that may be triggered by?
That's a really good question. So several things can actually happen as a result of imposter syndrome. So some people can become paralyzed by fear, that fear of failure or a fear of their own competence. So you'll find people that, like, maybe they had like a successful business that did really, really well. Maybe they sold it, and then they have another idea, but they're scared to move forward with that because they may not experience the exact same success that they experienced previously. It can also really cause some isolation because you're trying to perfect everything. You want everything to be right. You feel like you should know everything, and you can also kind of take on all responsibilities by yourself and not really seek out help when you should with imposter syndrome.
What about the person that didn't have a business first, like that wants to get into the business world but scared to take that leap? You know, because they feel like they might be in over their heads or something like that. You know, that qualify as well? So not just the person that had a business first, but you know what I'm saying? But that fear of even stepping out there to begin with.
Right. So you can have all of the skills and the know-how and then still experience imposter syndrome where you feel like you can't actually step out and do it. The difference is with imposter syndrome, you have experienced success though. And that can be in any sort of realm. Like I said, academically, professionally, and so those implications, there's usually some sort of success. Like I said, it's usually your high achievers and your people that are high functioning. So even if it's not that business, there's some other realm where they've been successful, but they just don't attribute that success to themselves.
Makes sense. You gotta feel like you're an imposter or something. You gotta be
Yeah,
successful.
you gotta be
feel like
good.
you're an
Like,
imposter.
I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to not achieve anything. Feel like,
achieving
I don't belong
I
here.
don't belong here.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You ready to go? What do you do?
What is your thing?
Actually brought up a really good point because like that is another key difference with some of these other things like perfectionism. It's that belief that you are indeed a fraud, and like imagine that, like no matter how successful you are, how many degrees you might have, your title at work, like you are sitting in these spaces and functioning in these spaces oftentimes with people who don't look like you if you're a part of one of these marginalized groups, and you feel like you are a fraud in your own skin. Like imagine how that you know, and we've all experienced it, right? But like how does that feel? Like and how does that impact your desire to do different things, to seek out different positions, to take that leap for this idea that you might have, this business? Like how does that impact all of those different things? It makes you fear failure. It makes you, you know, feel like everything has to be perfect, or you won't even do it if it's not done exactly how you perceive it should be done.
So this is like
Wow.
speaking to me big time because I've been praying over my next steps careers wise, and I'm literally shying away from one step because of everything you just said. Because I'm like, yeah, I might be pretty good there, but I don't belong in that space. That space wouldn't accept me, and everybody in that space is so far ahead of me as far as everything, both on the job and the charisma and the knowledge of the world that you have to have of things and people. That's just way too far somewhere I don't belong, and because of that, you know, and it's in the area that every time I've taken a step in that area I've had success, but again, you know, I've contributed success to something else, still do.
And I don't think you're alone. I think we all do. I think it's when we get to the point of paralysis, because like it's normal to experience some degree of doubt or worry. However, most of us can reflect on past successes and help to use that to propel us forward. But with imposter syndrome, especially if it's kind of at that crippling stage, then that really kind of halts your movement forward. And that's definitely when you need to seek professional help. If you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to others, not moving forward, depressed, anxious, all of those things, I think that's when you need to say, it's time to get some professional help. However, I think the difference is too, like, again, imposter syndrome just doesn't serve us well, like at all. Like even perfectionism to some degree serves you well, right? Like that contributes to some of your successes, whereas imposter syndrome really doesn't. Like if you're constantly doubting yourself, your skills, and whatever success you have, how does that help you to move forward? And so I think just that acknowledgement, and I think another key element with imposter syndrome is like figuring out what's normal, because like all of our backgrounds contribute to how we look at the world and how we perceive different things. So you can have big T trauma, which might be something like abuse or something like that, or little T trauma, which all of us have had little T trauma. It's a relationship that didn't quite work out, a hurt, a parent being critical or something like that. So all of that kind of shapes how we view ourselves and how we view our place in the world. So I think the important thing to do is kind of realize what's normal and what's not normal, because if you grew up in certain settings, like that is normal to you. Like being overly critical is normal to you. Doubting your every move might feel normal to you, but it's not. Right?
Okay.
So I think that's a key part of it, kind of recognizing one, when it's you know, causing some sort of paralysis, and then like as we age and become adults and kind of realize, like from interactions with other people, like, oh, this wasn't really helpful or healthy in my family, but this is something I can do to kind of help course correct.
Okay. I'm pretty sure everybody that's going to be listening to this will relate to imposter syndrome as it pertains to the work environment. You know, like as we discussed before, how does it look in other spaces though? You know, in other settings.
Oh, absolutely. Like you see it in schools all the time, especially schools that I used to work at a private school, and it was one of the top private schools here in Atlanta, and everyone was high performing. All of the parents were attorneys and doctors and CEOs, CFOs, and the school itself was high performing. So kids were typically on the higher end of the IQ spectrum, and they also, the coursework was paced like a grade level or two ahead. So the expectation and the bar was quite high. So you're already kind of in this setting that's, you know, conditioned that you have to function way above where you should because your parents function there, all the people around you function there. So this can create some social stress and social pressure. And if we look at the data, like especially when COVID happened, like we saw a lot of teenagers struggling. Like no matter what high school you went to, anywhere, kids are stressed. They're stressed socially, they're stressed academically, they're stressed within their family. They are stressed out. So these are the kids that and I hate to say it too, I see it in my daughter too sometimes. So my daughter will get a 90 on a spelling test and she'll be like, I failed. And I'm like, that's still an A. Like that's still an A.
A plus in today's grading system.
Yeah, like in her mind.
Valedictorian.
Right. A 90. Oh,
Like,
genius.
whoa, the world ended. But like in her mind, and we're working through this. We're working on She's got some of mommy's perfectionism, and we're working on it.
That's cool.
But
Self-awareness.
Yes, Ashley. Yes, self-awareness. So we're working on that. Like, so it's like, what is oftentimes people with imposter syndrome and kids with imposter syndrome create unrealistic expectations. So in her mind, every single time she takes a test, she's supposed to get 100. That's ridiculous. Most people don't get 100 every single time. So kids are giving themselves this same pressure. Every assignment I'm supposed to get an A. Every comment is supposed to be an A. I'm supposed to be the best, the top in football, basketball, soccer, what have you. Like I'm supposed to be scouted. Like they're putting all of these different stresses. And then thank God, I mean, I didn't have this kind of stress and with social media, like, you know, wanting things to go viral or, getting so many likes and things like that. So then there's another, pressure that kids are putting on themselves that can cause imposter syndrome,
I don't even think there's not a lot of adults deal with that when you come to that social media. I mean, I get wrapped up in it sometimes. Like sometimes they, post something, I'd be like,
With
you know what I'm
saying? Chaser.
You know what I'm saying? And you're right. But Jay is the
he brings it back in.
Yeah, he brings it back down. Like, yo,
really?
on a Monday call, he'd be like, yo, that is really good numbers, really good production. Y'all be like, that's only got. But
keep that up, Jay.
But he's the glass half full, of the group. You know
man,
what I'm
fuck that glass.
saying? So, right. Yeah, give me another drink.
Which is ironic because that speaks to how imposter syndrome plays out in different settings.
There you go.
In every area of the life,
yes.
I'm like, yo, we almost out of water.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And because it's crazy.
Then you got your people that's like, damn. Then you got your people that are doers that are like, okay, well, what we gonna do about it?
So my wife came back from the retreat where y'all discussed imposter syndrome. She couldn't even put her bags down. I was like, let me see that test. Right. I had an imposter syndrome test, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went into it all arrogant. I mean, I probably got a little remnants of it. She was way up there.
Oh, yeah.
She was like,
You got a 90.
I'm like, hold up.
Let me take it again.
Got all these.
Somebody carried it too.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Got all these.
but what was weird, right? Because I'm answering questions, right? And it's so valid because I'm saying, as a father, husband, at work, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Truth no chaser, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, because we've talked and we've learned that so many other things have to play out. Generally, if you're diagnosed with something, it plays out in other areas in life. But imposter syndrome is one of those things that can show up
in different places.
Absolutely.
And that goes back to what you said about people that like of color and women
Mm-hmm.
in your job. You just said that your job don't look like you, so that would make sense why in your setting it shows up there with us. You like we the homies. You know what I'm saying? So it really wouldn't.
My profession, the higher you go, the less room it is for anyone marginalized.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To the point where if you see anyone that fits in the marginalized group of folks in America, it's a topic amongst the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get excited when you see somebody
Yeah.
like I was on my last firm, we saw like a black woman like on a high level managing a high level investment portfolio on the call. So the call hung up. It's like the two brothers was like,
Yes.
It's like she's a sister.
Bro.
Sisters, like sister, for real.
huh?
Like an actual sister, like.
No,
But oh, okay.
but she did look like us.
Yeah.
I got you.
Which in my profession at that level,
It's not seen.
it is, yo, right? I mean, we even joked about it. We was like, but you know, she on them white folks Zoom like that,
Right.
like it's like, but that thing is like now, while I can say, okay, I've had successes in certain places, I'm like, there's still a part of me that's like, I can, but I don't belong, right? And then when they start talking about things, right? So then, let's hold that right there, right? So many of what you said for real though, many of the successful folks that do look like us are not your typical, you know what I mean? They take on, and even if they are like us at home, blah, 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 the code switch is beyond the level that I'm willing to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's beyond the level that I'm willing to go and still be myself, have 1 ounce of myself.
Right.
I mean, the clean shaven face with no mustache and the you know, the everything dressed to a T, perfect, everything super presentable at all times. You know, you got to know about art. You got to know about golf. You got to know. And I'm like,
Those topics. Yeah.
yo, you talk about rap?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Wu-Tang?
Right.
Nas?
I completely agree. Like it's still being able to be your authentic self,
Right.
in these spaces that weren't designed necessarily for us. So I totally agree. I love it though when we are in these different spaces and then other people of color see you as
It's the code. It's the code. I just feel like,
yeah. No matter where I go, there is always a black woman after one of my presentations that pulls me to the side and is like, little girl. And I'm like, I see you. I appreciate you.
Especially when we kill it, right?
That's a
Especially
beautiful thing.
Yes.
Yes,
And they
that
come
is
out
dope.
and we need that affirmation. But the difference is with imposter syndrome, because like you could probably take that feedback just like I take that feedback, and I'm like, I did that. Like that presentation was kind of dope, and it was me. Like, but with imposter syndrome, you would go back and you would be like, well, it really wasn't me. It was. We had a good crowd, or you know, this other thing was attributed to.
I'm like, and it's crazy. I'm like, I'm myself on mute. I'm like, I just read the charts, man. Anybody can read the charts. Now,
nobody can't read the charts like you. You know what I mean?
That's what it is, Frankie.
Nobody can read the charts like you, brother. Yeah, you know.
But
have to tell yourself
I don't
that.
even want to make it about me. We can talk
No,
offline later.
I mean, I think we have to talk about it because I think a lot of people don't talk about
Right.
it. Like,
That's the problem. And that's why I want to discuss the topic, because we don't talk about it enough. And we're all suffering in different ways in different settings in life. And we just don't have information or know what to do with it, right? So you're right. Let's have this conversation.
no, I agree. Like, it's this, you feel like you're siloed and it's only you that's feeling this self-doubt. And when we feel this self-doubt, like, what do? We retreat and then we try to tighten up even more. Like, that first year, I remember I would do a presentation, I'd submit it, and then I would go back and I would look for all my mistakes and like stress about like, oh, I didn't put a period right there, should have been a semicolon, like all these stupid things. And I was like, after a while, I mean, it took a year, but I was like, how is this helpful? Like, first of all, don't nobody care about the semicolon but me. Like, and then how is this actually serving me? And then I had to go back and start looking at, okay, so I went back and stressed out about all of this like stuff that really didn't matter. It was really unrealistic. And then it negated the positive feedback that I would receive, because I'm like, oh, well, did they see da da da? So like, we have to talk about it, one, because we have to normalize it. We have to normalize the fact that we are all functioning in these spaces that aren't necessarily designed for us. And then we have to figure out how can we go about creating this space where we feel safe and where we're able to feel confident and realize that the success that we experience is attributed to us. It's our skills, it's our ability, all of those things constitute those successes.
Like, so I mean, for someone that is like Jay, same thing on his job. Like, what's some methods? Anyone that
I
is
was like,
suffering,
that's all of us.
What is some methods of improvement? I mean, I could assume like journal. Journalizing or
Journaling.
saying journaling, excuse me, and like diaries, stuff like that. Just like you said, affirmations, just like, just writing down little notes. I can assume.
He's answering it.
No. Oh, my bad. I'm on the right track.
Right.
Yeah. My bad. I'm sorry. Just sitting there. Like,
Frankie was killing it. I was like, yes, Frankie, yes, all that.
like little self-talk. Your self-talks in the mirror, like, you are enough.
Yes.
You are you.
Okay.
Who's that joint? I'm good enough. I'm smart enough.
Yeah.
And gosh darn it, people like me.
Yes.
Where is it from?
I can't remember what
Yeah.
I can't remember the name
Oh,
of the movie,
man,
but
yeah.
like, we laugh at it, but it's required.
Okay.
It is absolutely required. So you're absolutely right. Like, affirmations, positive affirmations. I am enough. I belong. I am capable. I'm a conqueror. Like, I mean, I take it to the Bible to get most of mine, but
Facts.
that we are more than enough. So the affirmations are so important. Also, you mentioned journaling. That's a part of self-reflection, because oftentimes we don't really take a moment to sit back and reflect on our success, or reflect on how hard it was to get to our success and like the things that we had to overcome. So having that self-reflection is really, really important. For example, a lot of people just remember either all the bad things or just the good things. We need to look at that experience in its totality, because we have to realize, like, yes, these things may have been hard, or there may have been some challenges along the way, but this is what I accomplished. And if I could do it once, I can do it again. Whereas oftentimes with imposter syndrome, we don't feel like we can do it again. Definitely, I mean, I'm all about mental health. So I honestly feel like everybody should have a therapist, personally.
Amen.
Because I feel like and know that most of the things that we experience today are rooted somewhere in our childhood. It's family, it's belongingness, it's stressors. All of that goes back to your upbringing. So I think, even because a lot of people think like, I don't need to go see a therapist unless I'm in crisis, but by then
Too late. Not necessarily too late, but kind of like foregone.
It's harder. Well, the thing is, like, you formed a lot of these habits already. So like, I'm a big proponent too of kids going to therapy pretty early, so we can go ahead. Like, my daughter started therapy She's so at 7, because like I was saying, I saw some of these little perfectionistic tendencies that she may or may not have gotten from me. And so I wanted to make sure, like, nobody said anything when I was a kid. They were just like, oh, Alicia's gonna be okay, Alicia's doing good, Alicia's not on a roll, Alicia's doing get straight A's. But what was behind Alicia getting straight A's and Alicia doing like was a mess, like, you know. And so I recognized that with my daughter and wanted to start getting her therapy early so we could identify and create healthy habits that she will replicate when she's an adult. So I believe in kids going to therapy, even if you're not noticing anything. I believe in adults definitely going to therapy.
We call it that and that journaling. Like I think I can get with that, you know. But us men, you know how we, you know what I'm saying, we too gangster to do certain shit, man. Like, you know.
Well, you know, like,
that's how I mean, that's how they feel.
Journal
like, you
on
know.
your phone. Like, it doesn't have to be traditional. Like, today was a tour. You know, like, it
right.
It can
Today
be,
was a rough day.
Yeah, like, you can literally leave yourself voice notes.
Yeah.
You can. One of my friends has like a jar that her family, they write their successes over the course of the year, and at the end of the year, they all go back and look at like, gosh, like we did all these things over the course of the year. Like, it doesn't have to be a fuzzy diary with, you know, it can be different ways that make you feel comfortable.
I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna start doing that shit. I don't think I'm gonna start a Dallas Cowboy journal. Depression, just like
Dallas Cowboy.
It's like, you know what I'm saying.
We won't hold that against him.
Right. Oh,
That's not journaling. That's rehab. Just need to stop.
Right. Why I keep putting myself through this? It's all good.
Has something to do with your childhood.
Right.
He's absolutely right.
That part right there stems back. But yes, those were definitely some great methods to help improve. I'm with you on that. Therapy obviously is one of my favorites. Journaling helped me write my second book, Pep Talks, Positive Affirmations. So those things definitely,
Plug.
yeah, absolutely. Those things definitely do it, because that's where I realized I felt like an imposter, because I was like, okay, second book, like it's okay, but hearing it is like I still don't feel no different. So my therapist helped me work through that. I'm still working through it today. But yes, when do you feel we identify when professional intervention may be necessary? When do you feel like to the point where we definitely need to see a therapist, like today?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, when you reach like that state of paralysis and your fear of failure or your fear of success prevents you from moving forward with things. If you're constantly comparing yourself to others, that's another indicator that you probably need some. If you're experiencing anxiety, like you are constantly worrying about everything, if you're having psychosomatic symptoms like your stomach hurts, you feel tingling in your fingertips or your toes, those are indications that anxiety is reaching a different level. If you feel sick to your stomach. Also depression. So if you're noticing that you aren't eating, or you're eating too much, or you're sleeping, you don't look forward to the same things that you used to look forward to, you're avoiding social interaction, those types of things. So, you know, when it gets to the point that you are so worried about being successful or your ability to be successful, all these other areas kind of blow up. That's when you definitely need to look at working with a therapist to help you.
You dropped so many gems. It was a lot to take in. It was them good meat and potatoes. Yeah. Before we get up out of here, though, thank you again, obviously, for dropping by.
Welcome.
But if you had to sum everything up, what is one thing you want to leave with the people that are watching this for the first time and have never heard of imposter syndrome?
I would want to say imposter syndrome serves nobody well. It's kind of like guilt. It does not serve you. Be cognizant that you are more than enough and you are more than capable in everything that you do.
Yeah.
Put a pin right there.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, how can people find you if they wanted to reach out to you personally and say, like, listen, I love your message. I love the way, your delivery, and I would like to, just get not only get some more information, but maybe get some more sources that I can, or some recommendations, for people to speak to, how can they find you?
Absolutely. So my Instagram, I'm still working on my professional Instagram, but
Okay.
my personal is Amiable Alicia on IG. And then I'm also I'm a consultant for a mental health app that we're working on for parents called the Belay. So belay.com is another, and this has videos, other tools and things that parents can access, and it really supports the mental health and well-being of kids.
Spell that for me.
Yeah, Belay.
BELAY.
Okay.
BELAY. Belay.
Gotcha.
Okay. Great,
All
great.
right. Thank you so much, Alicia. Whew, help me get my life together. How much do I owe you? Say that.
Walking
Well,
to
for
work.
you,
As soon as I walk in the
$3.99.
I'm good enough.
Right. Just walk right in.
Bitches.
Right. Absolutely. We encourage all listeners.
Yes.
All listeners to come to our comments, ask any questions that you want for Miss Alicia. Also, you can contact her personally through the handles that she just mentioned. Also, let's talk about these voters, y'all. This election coming up.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Ain't no
November
time.
5th.
Listen,
Early voting in Georgia started yesterday.
Yes.
So get out and vote.
Do not
Vote.
play.
so,
We ain't got time to be playing games.
Everybody belongs that day. So
Yes.
I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? We don't want to hear,
We got the
I know we was
biggest
all
imposter.
positive.
Yeah.
I know we was all positive just now.
The biggest imposter. He's trying to get up in there again. We ain't having it.
I know we was
There's a few people vote, some
all
of them
positive
suppressed.
just now, but I don't want to hear that imposter shit when it come to voting. You get your ass out there and vote.
Yes.
That part.
And whoever-
That part. Don't be
but-
fooled. Don't be fooled.
Don't be.
Nah, like Ashley said, whoever you decide to vote for.
But also said,
No.
I said I'm with
No,
her.
I'm with Obama. That is
Right.
not acceptable.
Yeah.
It's not unacceptable.
You know, Ashley be doing those now. She be like, but no, all seriousness. Whoever you decide to vote for.
Just make sure you vote.
Vote.
Kamala.
Yes. Vote.
I'm with
I
her.
got you.
Jay, what we discussed today?
Yes.
So we went through imposter syndrome here. We were joined by Miss Alicia Williamson. We discussed, how to define imposter syndrome, differentiated it from different emotions that we may feel, and understanding how it may play out. And when we understand how it may play out, we also want to identify that it can, unlike other things that we may wrestle with psychologically, it can play out in some arenas and not others. So we want to pay attention to those things when we understand how it can play out. We understand that there's different types of imposter syndrome, right? And then let's discuss some methods to improve, right? We talked about how to, journaling, self-affirmations, reading those things, spending that time with God, reaffirming his word. One of my favorite scriptures, hold fast to the same word as God, right? Now, then got out of here. We don't forget our icebreakers to make her acceptable, right?
All right.
All right. So apologies to anybody who's a local Cam Newton fan or anything like that. But I did want to circle back around real quick. What was y'all choice on the Maldives or the Greek Isles? Because I wanted to answer that.
Cruise. I don't want to do a cruise overseas. I think that's a little too long for me.
Okay.
So that was an easy choice for me about the Maldives.
I want to do the Greece trip. Man. Actually, I'm looking going next year.
I want to do
virgin, of
I
course.
want to do the Greece trip. That's my bucket list. It's one of my bucket list trips. But not the cruise. Yeah, not the
Just the
cruise.
trip.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to be up in the spot.
What, Mykonos, something like that? 'Cause that's just what it is, right? Mykonos and
What that was?
Santorini.
Mykonos.
Santorini.
So I want to do Santorini.
Santorini, yeah.
I'll probably go over to Mykonos for the fun though.
I'd probably do Mykonos because Tiffany already been to Santorini.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Santorini to sleep.
Well traveled. She's well traveled. Catch up.
Yeah.
Catch up.
Listen, so when Frank was mentioning our with a comment earlier, right? You can catch up on us on YouTube, where we'll be posting shorts and highlights of this video and other content that we have. That's at Instagram that we post those things. But our videos, our full videos, like this video, if you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, can be found on youtube.com/The Truth No Chaser.
Subscribe.
Subscribe, please subscribe, and you can find that's where you can find us. And there's other information for us on our website if you want to read our bios, understand what we're all about and our formation. But we thank you for joining us again. Subscribe, and tell a friend, and definitely have those open talks about imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yes.
And until next time, keep walking in your truth, Black people.